What if I told you about a guy who was an NBA All-Star, won 2 NBA championships, and was once regarded as one of the NBA's best big men, just completely disappeared one day? That's what happened to our guy Andrew Bynum. One moment he was dominating the paint, playing a key role in the Lakers' championship runs, and the next moment, he was out of the league before turning 30 years old. But how did this even happen? How does a player with so much talent, size, and potential for greatness suddenly become irrelevant? Where did it all go wrong? And where is Andrew Bynum now? Well, to figure this out, we have to go back to the beginning, where this whole thing started. Andrew Bynum was born on October 27, 1987, in Plainsboro Township, New Jersey. His early years were shaped by a split household, as his parents divorced when he was just a year old. Despite this, he maintained a connection with both sides of his family, spending his summers in North Carolina with his pops. This routine gave him a blend of experience from different environments, but basketball wasn't a major part of his life in the beginning. Unlike many NBA players who started dribbling as soon as they could walk, Bynum didn't even pick up the sport seriously until he was 15 years old. By the time he started playing organized basketball, he had a natural advantage. His height towering over most of his peers, he quickly became an imposing presence on the court. And while he lacked the refined skills of players who had been training since childhood, his physical gifts made him stand out immediately. He began his high school journey at West Windsor Plainsboro High School North in New Jersey. However, his time there was short, as he transferred to Soulbury School in Pennsylvania for the rest of his freshman and sophomore years. His development as a player was just beginning, and at this point, he was still learning the fundamentals of the game. By his senior year, he had taken his game to another level. He was nearly unstoppable on both ends of the floor, averaging 22 points, 16 rebounds, and 5 blocks per game. His dominant performances earned him national recognition, and he was selected to play in the 2005 McDonald's All-American Game, a prestigious event that showcases the best high school players in the country. And while he didn't have a breakout performance in the game, finishing with just 9 points and 5 rebounds, just being selected was a major achievement and solidified his status as one of the top high school prospects in the country. At this stage, most players of his caliber were preparing for college basketball. Bynum initially committed to the University of Connecticut and was set to join a program known for developing NBA caliber big men. However, after receiving feedback from scouts and coaches, he decided to declare for the 2005 NBA draft instead. This was a risky move. He was still raw in terms of skills and experience, but his potential was undeniable. At 7 feet tall with a massive frame, soft hands, and natural instincts for rebounding and shot blocking, teams saw him as a long-term project that could eventually turn into a dominant center. With that decision, Bynum became one of the last players to go directly from high school to the NBA, as the league soon implemented the one-and-done rule, requiring players to spend at least 1 year in college or play professionally overseas before entering the draft. His choice would set him on a path filled with both incredible highs and frustrating lows, as his career will become a story of untapped potential and what could have been. The 2005 NBA draft featured several highly regarded prospects, including Andrew Bogut, Chris Paul, and Darren Williams. And while those players have built strong resumes through years of college or elite level competition, Bynum was entering the draft with just 2 years of serious basketball experience. His selection as the 10th overall pick by the Los Angeles Lakers raised some eyebrows, as many questioned whether he was ready for the NBA. For the Lakers, This pick made all the sense in the world. The team had just traded Shaquille O'Neal to the Miami Heat the previous offseason, leaving a massive hole in the center spot. With Kobe Bryant now taking full control as the franchise player, the Lakers needed a young big man who could eventually anchor the paint and develop into a dominant force. Bynum wasn't expected to contribute immediately, but the Lakers saw him as a future investment, a player they could mold into an elite center over time. At just 17 years old, Andrew Bynum was the youngest player ever drafted into the NBA, breaking the previous record held by Jermaine O'Neal. When he made his NBA debut on November 2nd, 2005, in a game against the Denver Nuggets, he became the youngest player to ever step onto an NBA court at 18 years and 6 days old. The moment was historic, but his actual performance was underwhelming. Playing just 6 minutes, he missed both of his shot attempts, grabbed 2 rebounds, and blocked 2 shots. It was clear that he had a long way to go before becoming a meaningful contributor. To develop him, the Lakers brought in Hall of Famer Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as a special mentor. Kareem worked with Bynum on his footwork, post moves, and understanding of the game. The challenge wasn't just about improving his skills. It was also about teaching him the work ethic needed to succeed in the NBA. Despite the guidance, Bynum struggled throughout his rookie season, averaging 1 point and 1 rebound per game. His shooting percentage was a poor 40%, and his free throw percentage was even worse, at under 30%. For a player who was supposed to develop into an inside scoring threat, these numbers were a concern. However, he did have one standout moment that caught the attention of fans and the media. On January 16, 2006, the Lakers faced the Miami Heat, which meant Bynum would go up against Shaquille O'Neal, the man he was expected to eventually replace. Early in the game, Shaq dunked on Bynum, showing the massive gap between the rookie and the league's most dominant big man. But instead of backing down, Bynum responded on the very next possession. He spun past Shaq and threw down a dunk of his own. What happened next was even more unexpected. As Bynum ran back on defense, he deliberately bumped into Shaq, elbowing him slightly in the process. The two exchanged words and both received technical fouls. But Bynum has sent the message. He wasn't going to be intimidated, even by a legend. The moment earned him respect, and although he wasn't anywhere close to being an impact player just yet, he showed that he had the confidence and wasn't afraid of the spotlight. By the end of his first season, Bynum remained a work in progress. He had the tools, but he still lacked the strength, conditioning, and polish needed to be effective at the NBA level. The Lakers knew they had a long road ahead in developing him, but there were glimpses of potential that kept them optimistic about the future. After a slow start in his rookie season, Andrew Bynum entered his sophomore season with a bigger role than expected. Injuries to Chris Mim and Kwame Brown left the Lakers thin at the center position, forcing them to rely on young Bynum much earlier than they had planned. Despite being just 19 years old, he was given the opportunity to start and show what he could do against experienced NBA big men. That season, Bynum made a noticeable leap in his performance. His scoring improved. He became more confident on the boards, and he showed glimpses of his potential as a dominant shot blocker. By the end of the season, he was averaging 7 points, 5 rebounds, and 1 block per game. While these numbers weren't eye-popping, they were a clear improvement from his rookie season, and the Lakers were encouraged by his progress. However, not everyone was impressed with his development. Lakers head coach Phil Jackson was often vocal about his concerns regarding Bynum's work ethic and conditioning. He believed that Bynum wasn't putting in the necessary effort to develop into the star the team hoped he would become. Even Kobe Bryant, the team's leader and most intense competitor, had his doubts. During the summer of 2007, Kobe was caught in the infamous leaked video complaining about the Lakers front office not trading Bynum for Jason Kidd. "Ship his butt out," Kobe said, making it clear that he didn't believe in Bynum's ability to help him win another championship.
Right, my legs. Kidding me?
He's the one that drafted Bynum, so
ship his ass up. You talking about Jason Kidd, but he didn't want to do that.
They think Andrew Bynum's going to be...
So now we sit here in this position.
What's Andrew Bynum's potential? Honestly.
No, man.
I'll start.
Mitch Kupchak though. Mitch Kupchak had the nerve to ask this.
It was a brutal wake-up call for Bynum. He had been working to prove himself, but now he knew that his superstar teammate didn't have confidence in him. But instead of backing down, Bynum responded in the best way possible by taking a major step forward in the 2007-2008 season. He came into the year with a more refined offensive game, better conditioning, and a strong presence in the paint. He played with more aggression, showing that he could be a force as a scorer, rebounder, and rim protector. By January 2008, he was averaging 13 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game, making him one of the most promising young big men in the league. But just when everything was starting to fall into place, disaster struck. On January 13, 2008, in a game against the Memphis Grizzlies, Bynum landed awkwardly on Lamar Odom's foot while going for a rebound. He immediately went down in pain and had to be helped off the court. The diagnosis was a dislocated kneecap, a serious injury that would force him to miss the rest of the season. His absence had a massive impact on the Lakers. Just a few weeks later, the team made a blockbuster trade for Pau Gasol, filling the void left by Bynum's injury. The Lakers would eventually go on to make the NBA Finals, but without their young big man, they were outmatched by the Boston Celtics and lost the series in 6 games. Bynum's injury raised concerns about his durability. He has shown significant progress, but now the question was whether he could stay healthy long enough to reach his full potential. Despite missing nearly half of the previous season, the Lakers still believed in Bynum's potential. In the 2008 offseason, they rewarded him with a 4-year, $58 million contract extension, committing to him as their long-term center. The hope was that he would come back stronger, help the Lakers dominate inside, and finally form the championship-caliber team Kobe had been waiting for. Early in the 2009 season, Bynum proved why the Lakers had made such a big investment. On January 21st, 2009, he had the best game of his career, scoring 42 points, grabbing 15 rebounds against the Los Angeles Clippers. It was a statement performance, showing that when healthy, he could be one of the most dominant centers in the league. But once again, his season was derailed by injury. Just 10 days after his career-high game in a matchup against the Memphis Grizzlies, Bynum suffered a torn MCL in his right knee after colliding with Kobe. It was a devastating blow, not just for Bynum, but for the Lakers, who were once again losing their starting center right before the playoffs. At this point, the Lakers should just petition to not even play the Grizzlies. Bynum missed 32 games, but returned just in time for the playoffs. However, he wasn't the same player, and he was clearly still recovering from his knee injury, and his minutes were limited. Despite this, the Lakers went on to win the 2009 NBA championship, defeating the Orlando Magic in the finals. While Bynum's role was reduced, he still contributed defensively and helped the team secure its first championship since 2002. The 2010 season was similar. Bynum had another solid regular season, averaging 15 points and 8 rebounds per game, and played in 65 games, his highest total since his second season. However, once the playoffs arrived, his knee problems returned. This time, he suffered a torn meniscus, but decided to play through the injury, knowing how much the team needed him. Even though he wasn't at full strength, he was a key contributor to the Lakers' run to a second straight championship. He battled through pain, giving the Lakers size and toughness in the paint, and helped them defeat the Boston Celtics in the 2010 NBA Finals. By the time the Lakers had secured their back-to-back titles, Bynum had proven his toughness, but his reoccurring knee problems were now a major concern, and his future was filled with uncertainty. After winning his second championship, Bynum needed surgery on his knee. However, instead of getting the procedure done immediately, he delayed it so he could vacation in South Africa and enjoy the summer. As a result, his recovery time was pushed back and he missed the start of the 2010-2011 season. His decision frustrated the Lakers, and it showed a lack of urgency and commitment to getting healthy. When he finally returned, Phil Jackson shifted his role instead of focusing on scoring. Bynum was expected to be a defensive anchor and rebounder. Although he played well in that role, his attitude was starting to become a problem. He was suspended 2 games for a flagrant foul on Michael Beasley, and his frustrations boiled over in the playoffs. In the 2011 Western Conference semifinals, the Lakers were swept by the Dallas Mavericks, and Bynum was ejected in Game 4 for a dangerous foul on J.J. Barea. He was later fined and suspended 5 games for the start of the following season. Despite these issues, the 2011-2012 season was the best of his career. He was finally healthy for most of the season, playing 60 games and averaging 18 points, 11 rebounds, and almost 2 blocks per game. He was named to his first All-Star team and had some dominant performances, including a career-high 30-rebound game against the San Antonio Spurs in April of 2012. But his immaturity continued to be an issue. In a game against the Golden State Warriors, he took an ill-advised three-pointer, which led to new head coach Mike Brown benching him. And instead of handling the situation professionally, Bynum refused to join the team in huddles and isolated himself from his teammates. By the time the Lakers lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder in the 2012 playoffs, it was clear that Bynum's time in Los Angeles was coming to an end. The team needed a change, and during the offseason, they made a blockbuster trade to acquire Dwight Howard, sending Bynum to the Philadelphia 76ers. At 24 years old, Bynum was coming off the best season of his career, but injuries and attitude issues had pushed him out of Los Angeles. The question now was whether he could finally reach his full potential in a new environment. Unfortunately, his career would never be the same again. After a career-best season with the Los Angeles Lakers, Andrew Bynum was expected to be the centerpiece of the Philadelphia 76ers' future. The move was supposed to mark the beginning of a new era in Philadelphia, with Bynum being the dominant inside force they had been missing for years. At the time of the trade, there were some concerns about Bynum's knees, but the Sixers were willing to take the risk. They hoped that with the right medical treatment and careful load management, he would be able to lead them deep into the playoffs. Philadelphia fans were excited, expecting him to be the franchise player they had been waiting for. But the excitement didn't last long. Before the season even began, Bynum went ortho therapy in Germany, a procedure designed to help reduce inflammation in his knees. While this treatment had worked for stars like Kobe Bryant, Bynum's situation was a little bit different. His knee problems were far more severe, and instead of improving, they continued to deteriorate. To make matters worse, in what seemed like a ridiculous turn of events, Bynum injured his left knee bowling. Yeah, bowling. What should have been a harmless activity worsened his already fragile knees, leading to more swelling and discomfort. This incident was baffling because bowling isn't a contact sport, yet somehow it caused enough damage to keep him off the court even longer. At this point, he's just better off playing a video game during his free time. The Sixers kept pushing back his return, hoping he could eventually recover, but his knees never got better. By March of 2013, after months of failed rehabilitation, Bynum underwent season-ending arthroscopic surgery on both knees. It was official. He would never play a single game for the 76ers. His time in Philadelphia became one of the most disappointing free agent signings in NBA history. The Sixers had given up valuable assets to acquire him, but in return, they got 0 minutes of action. Philadelphia fans quickly turned on him, frustrated by his lack of professionalism and commitment. At this point, Bynum's reputation was taking a huge hit. Instead of being viewed as an unlucky player with bad knees, many people started to question his dedication to the game. Was he really trying to make a comeback? Or had he already checked out mentally from basketball? He already got the big contract he was looking for, so who knows? Despite his disastrous time in Philadelphia, NBA teams were still interested in Bynum. His talent was undeniable. When healthy, he was one of the best centers in the league. Teams were willing to gamble on the small chance that he could regain his form. In July of 2013, the Cleveland Cavaliers signed Bynum to a 2-year, $24 million contract, but they were smart about it. Only $6 million of it was guaranteed. The rest of his contract was incentive-based, meaning Bynum had to actually play well and stay healthy to earn the rest of his money. For the first few weeks, things seemed to be going well. Bynum was on the court playing actual NBA games for the first time in over a year. In 24 games with the Cavs, he averaged 8 points, 5 rebounds, and 20 minutes per game. While he wasn't the dominant force he once was, he was still a solid contributor. But like before, just as things were starting to look up, Bynum's attitude problems surfaced again. Reports began circling that he was disruptive in practice, refusing to follow instructions, and taking ridiculous shots from all over the court. It reached a point where he was shooting the ball every single time he touched it, regardless of where he was standing. Whether he was near the basket or beyond the three-point line, he would put up a shot, completely ignoring his teammates and coaches. This bizarre behavior led to his suspension in December of 2013 for conduct detrimental to the team. The Cavs had seen enough. They didn't want to deal with his lack of discipline and effort, so they traded him to the Chicago Bulls in January 2014 as part of a salary dump. When the Cavs sent Bynum to Chicago, the move was strictly financial. The Bulls had no interest in keeping him. They were looking to clear cap space, and waiving Bynum allowed them to do just that. Bynum was immediately released, so he never played a single game for the Bulls. His time in Chicago only lasted a few hours, serving as a reminder that teams were now more interested in his contract than his abilities as a player. At this stage, it was clear that Bynum's career was in free fall. A player who had once been an all-star, an NBA champion, was now seen as a liability. His knee problems, poor attitude, and lack of dedication made him a risky investment for any team. Despite everything, Bynum still got one last chance. The Indiana Pacers, looking to bolster their front court depth for a playoff run, decided to take a low-risk chance on him. In February 2014, they signed him for the remainder of the season. Indiana's plan was simple: bring him in, let him rehab, see if he can contribute in the playoffs. However, by this point, Bynum's knees were completely shot. He played in just 2 games for the Pacers, averaging 11 points and 9 rebounds in limited minutes. And that was it. After those 2 games, he was declared out indefinitely with knee soreness, and in May of 2014, the Pacers officially cut ties with him. At just 26 years old, Andrew Bynum's NBA career was over. Even before Bynum was drafted, the Lakers' medical staff had warned the team about his knees. They reportedly gave him a failing grade in his physical evaluation, believing his body structure was not suited for long-term basketball success. Fast forward to 2025, and the Lakers literally just did that with Mark Williams a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, they were right. From 2008 onward, Bynum's knees were never the same. Multiple surgeries, missed seasons, and constant setbacks made it impossible for him to stay healthy. No matter how talented he was, his body simply couldn't keep up with the demands of the NBA. Bynum had always been given special treatment, starting from when he was drafted as a 17-year-old high school player. He had personal trainers, direct mentorships from Kareem, and the full support of the Lakers organization. But instead of taking advantage of these opportunities, he often acted out. He would ignore team huddles, take bad shots, and clash with coaches. His former teammate Nick Young once shared a story about how Bynum, while recovering from a torn ACL, was doing donuts in a Ferrari in the snow, showing zero regard for his health. Perhaps the biggest reason for Bynum's downfall was that he never really loved basketball. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who worked with him closely, once said, "I don't think he liked the game. He didn't want to master it." Even during his time with the Cavs, an unnamed source said, "He doesn't want to play basketball anymore. He never liked it that much in the first place." For many players, basketball is their life. For Bynum, it was just a job, one that he was ready to walk away from once he made enough money. Andrew Bynum had all the talent in the world, but between his injuries, attitude problems, and lack of passion, he became one of the biggest what-ifs in NBA history, and instead, his career ended before he even turned 30. A two-time champion, an all-star, and wasted potential. That is the story of Andrew Bynum. When analyzing Andrew Bynum's career statistics, it's clear that he had the potential to be a dominant force in the NBA. Across 418 regular season games, he averaged 11 points, 7 rebounds, and almost 2 blocks per game, while shooting 55% from the field. These numbers, while solid, don't fully tell the story of how impactful he could have been at his peak. In the playoffs, where the stakes are the highest, Bynum's stats dipped slightly to 9 points, 6 rebounds, and 1.5 blocks per game, over 74 postseason games. While these numbers aren't bad, they highlight a career that was often interrupted by injuries. His role in 2 championship runs with the Lakers was significant, but it was clear that he was never fully able to reach the level that his potential suggested. At his absolute best during the 2011-2012 season, he was a true force. That year, he put up 18 points and 11 rebounds per game and made his first and only All-Star appearance, and was selected to the All-NBA second team. For the first time, he was viewed as one of the best centers in the league, even being considered the second best behind Dwight Howard. Unfortunately, that would be his last full season he would ever play in the NBA. And while his story should serve a lesson for young players entering the league, natural talent can only take you so far. But to reach true greatness, you need dedication, discipline, and the willingness to improve every single day. Without those things, even the most gifted players can find themselves out of the league far earlier than expected. For our Laker fans, Bynum remains a what-if, a player who showed flashes of greatness but never reached his full potential. And for basketball fans in general, his story is a reminder that in sports, nothing is guaranteed, not even for the most talented players.
Talk about Memphis and just talk about Memphis.
It was guys playing how I fitted, bro. Like a puzzle, like just boom. People in the city, from the organization, showing me love, can relate to me.
Small town.
Small.
Hospitable.
Man, these folks is blue collar, and I'm a blue collar player, so bro, that was God.
He was a 2-time All-Star, won Most Improved Player of the Year, had almost 20,000 career points, grabbed over 10,000 career rebounds, and was one of the NBA's most physical yet skilled big men. His career spanned 17 seasons, and in that time, Zach Randolph redefined what it meant to be a big man. A physical player who could dominate in the post, had great footwork, and could step back and hit the jumper with ease. Yet somehow, after all he's done, how unique he was, and his impact he had on the game, his name is often overshadowed. How could one of the toughest, most respected power forwards in the league with his skill set remain undervalued? Why isn't his name mentioned when we think of the power forward position? And what's the reason behind it? This is the story of Zach Randolph, undervalued. Zach Randolph, or Zebo, was born in Marion, Indiana, on July 16, 1981. Growing up in this small Midwestern town, his early years were shaped by a strong sense of community and the power of sports. Basketball in particular played a big role in his life, and it became clear that early on he had a special talent for the game. By the time he reached high school, Zach was already showing signs of greatness. He attended Marion High School, where he quickly became a standout player on the team. During his sophomore year, he helped lead the Marion Giants to the 1998 Indiana Class 4A championship game. Although they didn't win, it was clear that Zebo was a force to be reckoned with on the court. His ability to dominate inside the paint, combined with his skill and basketball IQ, made him one of the top players in the state. By his senior year, Zebo had grown into one of the most powerful forces in high school basketball, helping Marion High School win the state championship. The victory in the state finals was a crowning achievement for him and solidified his place as one of the top high school players in the country. Despite being highly regarded in Indiana, Zebo finished second in the state's Mr. Basketball voting, behind Jerry Jeffries, who would later become his teammate with the New York Knicks. But that didn't stop Zebo from gaining national recognition. In 2000, he earned an invite to the prestigious McDonald's All-American Game, which brings together the best high school basketball players in the country. Zebo's performance at the event was impressive, as he took home the MVP honors after dropping 23 points and grabbing 15 boards, further proving that he was one of the top talents in the country. By the time his high school career came to an end, Zebo had already established himself as one of the most promising young players in the nation. His combination of size, strength, and skill was rare, and college recruiters were eager to get him on the team. His high school career laid the foundation for what would be a challenging yet rewarding journey to the NBA. After high school, he chose to play college basketball at Michigan State University, a powerhouse program led by legendary coach Tom Izzo. Michigan State was known for its tough physical style of play, and it was perfect for Zebo's game. At Michigan State, he joined a talented group of players, including future NBA champion Jason Richardson. The team was loaded with talent, and they quickly became one of the best teams in the country. During his freshman season, Zebo averaged almost 11 points and almost 7 boards per game. These numbers may not seem like much today, but for a freshman in a major program, they were a sign of things to come. Michigan State finished the season with an impressive 28-5 record, earning them a spot in the NCAA tournament. The Spartans made it to their third straight Final Four, showcasing just how good the program had become during this time. While Zebo's individual stats were solid, his contributions to the team went beyond just numbers. His physical play and strong presence on the court were key factors in Michigan State's success that season. He played with a toughness that matched the team's style, and his size and skill made him a very difficult matchup for opponents. Even though he was just a freshman, he showed maturity in his game that was uncommon for someone his age. He helped Michigan State reach the Final Four, but they eventually fell short of winning the championship that year. After that strong freshman year, it became clear that Zebo had outgrown college basketball. His combination of size, skill, and athleticism made him a potential NBA star, and the decision to enter the 2001 NBA draft was pretty much inevitable. Ultimately, his time at Michigan State was a brief but successful one. He contributed to one of the best college basketball teams in the country and showed that he was ready to take on the next challenge in his career. While he didn't win the national championship with Michigan State, his time there helped him grow as a player and set him up for success in the NBA. His decision to enter the draft was the beginning of a career that made him one of the most respected players in the league. His NBA career officially began when he was drafted by the Portland Trail Blazers with the 19th overall pick in the 2001 NBA draft. This was a big moment for Z-Bo, who had shown his potential in college and high school, but still had a lot to prove in the pros. Portland was a team that was competitive during that time, and Randolph found himself surrounded by experienced players. However, his time in Portland wasn't easy. From the beginning, Randolph's career was marked by struggles, both on and off the court. He came into the league carrying some baggage. He had a reputation for being a hothead, and this followed him from his early years in Portland. Off the court, he found himself in trouble multiple times. In 2002, he was arrested for underage drinking, which was just the beginning of a series of off-court incidents that would shape his early career. On the court, his weight issues also became a problem. Despite his skill set, he struggled to stay on top and in shape, and his conditioning was often questioned. All of these issues contributed to the Jailblazers' reputation that became so infamous during this time. The team was filled with players who had attitude problems, and Randolph was often seen as one of the biggest troublemakers on the roster. Despite these struggles, he began to show flashes of brilliance. In his third season, following the departure of Rasheed Wallace, he became a full-time starter for the Trailblazers. It was during this time that his true potential began to shine through. He averaged over 20 points and 10 boards per game, showing that he was capable of putting on big numbers and making an impact on the game. In 2004, his hard work was recognized when he was awarded the NBA's Most Improved Player Award. This was a turning point in his career and gave him confidence moving forward. In 2007, Z-Bo had his best season with the Trailblazers. He averaged almost 24 points and 10 rebounds per game, demonstrating that he could be one of the best big men in the league when he was focused. However, his season was cut short due to a hand injury that year. In what would turn out to be his final game as a Trailblazer, he had one of the best performances of his career, scoring a career-high 43 points and grabbing 17 rebounds. Despite his success, the Blazers grew frustrated with Randolph's lack of maturity and his struggles with consistency. By the end of his sixth season in Portland, the team decided to trade him away, feeling that his potential was being wasted. In the summer of 2007, Z-Bo was traded to the New York Knicks in exchange for several players, including Steve Francis and Channing Frye. This trade marked the beginning of another chapter in his career. However, his time in New York was short-lived. He played just 69 games in the 2007-2008 season, and his performances were solid, averaging almost 18 points and 10 rebounds per game. His time with the Knicks was far from smooth. He played well individually, but didn't quite fit into the team's long-term plans, and the Knicks struggled as a whole during this period. The Knicks were in the midst of a rebuilding phase, and Z-Bo didn't seem to be a long-term piece of their puzzle. In 2008, just a year after arriving, he was traded again, this time to the Los Angeles Clippers. His brief stay in New York didn't offer much in terms of team success, but his individual performances continued to prove that he had what it took to succeed in the NBA if he could get his act together. His time with the Clippers was brief as well. He played 39 games during the 2008-2009 season. He averaged over 20 points and just under 10 rebounds per game, which was another solid season for him. However, his time with the Clippers also wasn't without drama. In February 2009, he was involved in an on-court incident in which he punched Lou Amundsen of the Phoenix Suns. As a result, he was ejected from the game and later suspended for 2 games. This incident was just another example of Z-Bo's ongoing struggles with his temper and off-court behavior. Despite the setback, he continued to put up solid numbers for the Clippers, but the team was still going through a rebuilding phase, and they were not a serious playoff contender during his time there. In the summer of 2009, he was traded again, this time to the Memphis Grizzlies. Z-Bo's move to the Memphis Grizzlies in 2009 marked a pivotal moment in his NBA career. It was a fresh start for a player who had faced many challenges, both on and off the court. For years, he struggled with weight issues, off-court drama, and unfulfilled potential. He was often seen as a player with talent, but without the drive to fully realize it. Memphis, a team that had never made a significant playoff run, was searching for an identity. It seemed like the ideal environment for him to prove himself and rebuild his reputation. In Memphis, Z-Bo would experience the greatest redemption of his career. Upon arriving in Memphis, Z-Bo brought with him the weight of his past mistakes, but also a hunger to turn things around. His previous struggles with consistency and conditioning were well documented, and the city was unsure of what to expect from the once troubled player. However, what many fans didn't know was that Z-Bo's journey to Memphis wasn't just about changing teams. It was about changing himself, a significant event in his life. The sudden death of his father in 2009 became the catalyst for his transformation. This tragic loss was a turning point for Randolph, forcing him to reflect deeply on his life, career, and the missed opportunities due to lack of focus. Losing his father helped him realize that life is precious, and he had the chance to make something of himself if he truly committed to his craft. This period of reflection sparked a renewed sense of purpose. Z-Bo understood that he was on the verge of wasting his last opportunity in the NBA. For the first time in his career, he focused not just on his game, but on his mindset and maturity. The combination of his emotional wake-up call and his determination to prove himself propelled him into the gym with a newfound intensity. Randolph's physical transformation was remarkable. He got into the best shape of his career, shedding the weight that had once held him back. But the transformation wasn't just physical. He was becoming a different player mentally as well. He was more disciplined, more focused, and far more committed than he had ever been before. In his first season with the Grizzlies, Z-Bo's impact was immediate. His commitment to his craft paid off as he was selected to his first NBA All-Star game in 2010, signaling that he had not only turned a corner in his personal life, but was also performing at an elite level on the court as well. This recognition was a result of years of hard work and a clear shift in attitude, and it was just the beginning of what would become a career-defining journey in Memphis. However, it wasn't until the 2011 playoffs that Z-Bo truly solidified his place in NBA history. The Grizzlies, as the 8th seed in the Western Conference, faced the top-seeded San Antonio Spurs in the first round. It was a matchup that most analysts and fans expected Memphis to lose. The Spurs were led by veterans Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili and were the heavy favorites. But Randolph, who had spent years of dealing with doubters, was determined to prove that he had what it took to lead his team to victory. In one of the most remarkable upsets in NBA history, the Memphis Grizzlies defeated the San Antonio Spurs in 6 games, making them just the second 8th seed in history to knock off a first seed in a 7-game series. Z-Bo played a pivotal role in the series, averaging 21 points and almost 10 rebounds per game. In the decisive Game 6, he put together one of the most memorable performances of his career, scoring 31 points and grabbing 17 rebounds. This performance not only sealed the series, but also cemented Z-Bo's reputation as a clutch performer. For Memphis, it was a historical moment. It was the first ever playoff series win in franchise history. It also marked the beginning of what would become the grit and grind era, a period of toughness and resilience that would define the franchise for years to come. The success didn't end there. Z-Bo's leadership and performances continued to elevate the Grizzlies. In the 2011-2012 season, he was named to the All-NBA third team, and his role in leading the Grizzlies to success continued. In 2013, he led Memphis to the Western Conference Finals for the first time in franchise history, further cementing his legacy as the heart and soul of the team. Even though they were swept by the Spurs in the conference finals, Z-Bo's impact was undeniable. He had helped transform a team with very little playoff success into one of the most respected and feared teams in the league. Along the way, he has several memorable performances, including a 34-point game in the 2011 playoff series against the Oklahoma City Thunder. He also recorded his first career triple-double in 2016, finishing with 28 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists, in a win over the Los Angeles Clippers, of course. By the time Randolph left Memphis in 2017, he had become the team's all-time leader in made field goals and total rebounds, having played a crucial role in making the Grizzlies one of the most respected franchises in the NBA. His contributions went far beyond statistics. He had helped define the team's identity and instilled a culture of toughness and resilience. His leadership on and off the court was an integral part of the franchise transformation, and his impact was felt not just in Memphis, but throughout the league. His ability to elevate the Grizzlies as both a player and a leader turned Memphis into a team that other franchises would respect and fear. After leaving Memphis, he signed a 2-year, $24 million contract with the Sacramento Kings in 2017. His role with the Kings, though, was different from his time in Memphis. At this point in his career, he was no longer the focal point of a team. Instead, he was asked to provide veteran leadership to a young Kings team. In his first season, Z-Bo played well, even recorded a career-high 35 points and 13 boards in a game against the New Orleans Pelicans in December of 2017. However, his second season in Sacramento was much less eventful. He played a very limited role and eventually fell out of the team's rotation as the Kings began to focus on their younger players. In February of 2019, Z-Bo was traded to the Dallas Mavericks, but he was waived just 2 days later, ending his time with the Kings and officially marking the final chapter of his NBA career. In December of 2019, he officially announced his retirement from the NBA, bringing an end to his career that had been full of ups and downs. Despite the early struggles and off-court issues, his career had come full circle. He had become a respected leader and one of the toughest players to ever step on an NBA court. In 2021, the Memphis Grizzlies honored Z-Bo by retiring his jersey number, a fitting tribute to a player who had defined an era of Memphis basketball. Z-Bo's jersey retirement ceremony was a celebration of everything he had done for the team, the countless hours of hard work, his leadership, and his pivotal role in building the grit and grind culture. His number 50 now hangs in the Raptors of FedEx Forum, a permanent reminder of the player who helped elevate the Grizzlies from a struggling team to one of the most respected in the NBA. Z-Bo's legacy goes beyond just basketball. He became a beloved figure in Memphis, both for his on-court performances and his off-court contributions. He became a mentor to young players and a role model for aspiring athletes. His charitable work, including youth programs and community outreach, made him a respected figure both in Memphis and beyond. His dedication to helping others only further solidified his place as one of the most respected players in NBA history. After retiring from the NBA in 2019, Z-Bo seamlessly transitioned into life beyond basketball, where he remained deeply connected to the game and his community. While many retired athletes often fade into the background, Z-Bo stayed active, especially in Memphis, where he has spent the most successful and impactful years of his career. Known for his community involvement throughout his playing days, he continued to prioritize giving back after hanging up his sneakers. His charitable efforts, particularly in Memphis, became a cornerstone of his post-basketball life. Randolph's Foundation has been a driving force behind his efforts to support unprivileged youth in the Memphis area, focusing on education, mentoring, and creating opportunities for children who might not otherwise have them. His investment into the future of Memphis speaks volume about his character and the legacy he wants to leave far beyond his time on the court. Z-Bo's connection to Memphis hasn't just been charitable. He has remained an active presence with the Memphis Grizzlies, staying involved in the team's activities and maintaining a strong bond with the franchise he helped define. The Grizzlies' grit and grind era are forever tied to Randolph's image as one of the pillars of that identity. He has frequently been seen at games supporting the new generation of Grizzlies players, especially those who were too young to witness the era he helped establish. Z-Bo's mentoring role has extended to the younger players of the Grizzlies, and his experience and wisdom have made him a valuable resource to the team. Even in his post-playing career, His strong relationship with teammates, particularly Marc Gasol, Mike Conley, and Tony Allen, has continued, showing their tight-knit nature of the grit and grind team. In addition to his ongoing involvement with the Grizzlies, he also made some noise in other basketball-related avenues. There were rumors in 2010 about his return to the court, but not for the NBA, of course, but for the Big Three League, a 3-on-3 basketball competition founded by Ice Cube. The Big Three, which brings retired NBA players back to competitive play in a more relaxed format. Seemed like a perfect fit for Randolph, who still had a passion for the game, and he felt he could offer something to this new basketball venture. Although he didn't end up playing in the Big Three, this idea represented Randolph's continued love for the sport, demonstrating that he wasn't ready to completely distance himself from basketball, even in retirement. Off the court, he has carved out a space for himself in the community as a role model. He has shown a deep commitment to social issues and become a symbol of redemption for many young people who look up to him not just for his basketball skills, but for how he turned his life around. In 2021, as recognition for his incredible contributions to Memphis, the Grizzlies retired his number, an honor that cements his place in franchise history. The gesture, along with his induction into the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame in 2023, further solidified his status as a local hero. As of early 2025, you can catch Zebo doing his Out of the Mud podcast with his co-host and former teammate of the Grit and Grind era, Tony Allen, among other ventures. His post-retirement life has been defined by a balance between basketball, mentorship, and giving back to the community that supported him throughout his career. He may have left the NBA courts, but his influence remains deeply rooted in the Memphis Grizzlies organization and the city itself. His impact as a player extends far beyond his time on hardwood, continuing to inspire future generations, both on and off the court. What if I told you about a guy who was a 4-time All-Star, an NBA champion, had a fiery attitude with a silky smooth jumper, and was one of the best big men of his era? Just disappeared one day. That's what happened to our guy Rasheed Wallace. One day he was playing a huge role for the Detroit Pistons during their incredible run, and the next, he kind of faded into the background and is barely being mentioned these days. But how did this even happen? Where did he go? And where is he now? Rasheed's greatness didn't start in the NBA. Back in college, he was first-team All-ACC player in 1995 and made the consensus second-team All-American that same year while at the University of North Carolina. Before that, he was a standout freshman in 1994, earning a spot on the All-ACC freshman team. They loved him so much, they honored his number 30 jersey. Not everybody gets that kind of love. He might have been known for yelling "ball don't lie" after a missed free throw or a bucket, but Rasheed's legacy goes way beyond that. He played with heart, intensity, and skill and could score, rebound, block shots, and defend with the best of them. He wasn't just a player. He was a vibe, a competitor who played with fire, stood up for his teammates, and always left it all on the court. Whether you loved him, you hated him, or you was afraid of him, you felt him every time he played. Rasheed Wallace was born on September 17, 1974, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Growing up in the city's Germantown neighborhood, he was the youngest of 3 sons. Raised in a single-parent household, his mother, who worked in the Pennsylvania Department of Welfare, played a major role in shaping his character and work ethic. Despite facing the struggles that came with growing up in a single-parent home, Rasheed's family was incredibly close-knit. His mother, in particular, pushed him and his brothers to do well in school and stay focused on their goals, making sure they had the right guidance and support. As a young boy, Rasheed's athletic abilities became clear very early on, especially when he got to high school. This was where Rasheed began to make a name for himself in basketball. He was already showing signs of a dominant force on the court with his unique height, strength, and skills, catching the attention of local fans and scouts alike. During his senior year, he earned several prestigious awards. Notably, he was named USA Today's High School Player of the Year and was selected as a 2-time Parade All-American, which is a major honor for high school athletes. His exceptional talent on the basketball court was complemented by his performances in other sports, as Rasheed was also a standout player in baseball, track, and the high jump. These multi-sport achievements highlighted his versatility as an athlete, making him one of the most well-rounded players of his class. Rasheed was a literal force in his senior year, where he averaged impressive numbers, despite playing in a high school league that didn't always receive the attention of larger programs. His scoring ability with his skill on both the offensive and defensive side helped put his team on the map, and his performances in the Round Ball Classic, where he scored 30 points, proved he was ready for the next level. Rasheed wasn't just focused on basketball though. He knew the importance of well-rounded development, which showed in his participation in multiple sports. His achievements in track and field, along with baseball, only added to his reputation as a top-tier athlete. After his standout high school career, Rasheed Wallace was recruited by some of the top college basketball programs, but he eventually chose to play for the University of North Carolina. The decision to attend UNC was heavily influenced by legendary coach Dean Smith, who saw Rasheed's potential and offered him a place on the Tar Heels. Wallace's time at UNC was a significant period in his life, both personally and professionally, as it set the stage for his future success in the NBA. During his 2 years at North Carolina, Rasheed continued to develop his game under the guidance of Coach Smith. He was named second-team All-American during his sophomore year, an impressive achievement that helped solidify his place as one of the top college players in the country. But Rasheed's success wasn't just about individual accolades. His presence on the court helped lead the Tar Heels to the 1995 NCAA Final Four, showcasing his ability to perform in high-pressure situations. His time at UNC also brought him into contact with future NBA coach Larry Brown, who would later coach him in Detroit. The connection with Brown helped Wallace adapt quickly to the professional level once he made it to the NBA. Rasheed's college career was a crucial learning phase where he honed his skills and became more comfortable with his role as a team player. His time at North Carolina also taught him the importance of teamwork and how to integrate his skills into a winning system. While at UNC, he was surrounded by other talented players, and it was clear that he was ready to make the leap to the next level. By the time he left after his sophomore season, Rasheed Wallace was a polished, multi-dimensional player, and his college years provided the perfect foundation for the next step in his basketball journey. Rasheed Wallace's professional journey began in 1995 when he was selected 4th overall in the NBA draft by the Washington Bullets, of course now known as the Washington Wizards. The NBA was about to witness the arrival of a raw talent, and Wallace's skills, particularly his combination of size, athleticism, and versatility, made him a promising prospect. He entered the league with high expectations, and the Washington Bullets were hopeful that Wallace could contribute immediately. His rookie season was a solid start to what would become an eventful NBA career. He quickly made his mark by averaging 10 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists per game. His strong play earned him a spot on the NBA All-Rookie Second Team, a recognition only further highlighted his potential. Wallace was a skilled all-around player with the ability to affect the game in multiple ways. Despite being a rookie, he showed flashes of brilliance, and it seemed clear that he was ready to take the next step in his career. However, his first season wasn't without its challenges. He fractured his left thumb during the season, forcing him to miss several games. This injury was a setback, but his resilience allowed him to come back and continue to develop. Though his time with the Bullets was short, it was a stepping stone that prepared him for greater challenges ahead. Despite the injury, his time in Washington gave him the initial experience he needed to become a bigger presence in the NBA. And soon after, he was traded to the Portland Trail Blazers, a move that would define the next chapter of his career. The Portland Trail Blazers saw great potential in Wallace and acquired him after his rookie year. This trade was the one that would change the course of his career, and the Trailblazers were ready to give him a platform to grow. He was part of a team that had serious playoff aspirations, and Wallace was a key figure in the Blazers' journey towards the top of the Western Conference. Over the next several years, Wallace proved to be a vital piece for Portland. His scoring, defense, and rebounding made him one of the most well-rounded players on the roster. One of the defining seasons of Wallace's career came in 2002 when he averaged a career-high 19 points per game. His offensive game was as versatile as it was effective, and he was a constant presence on both ends of the floor. The 1999-2000 seasons were particularly memorable for the Trailblazers as they made it to the Western Conference Finals in both years. Unfortunately, despite his standout performances, the Blazers could not capture that elusive NBA Finals appearance. In 1999, they were eliminated by the San Antonio Spurs, and in 2000, it was the Los Angeles Lakers who would stand in their way. Rasheed, however, made his mark as a clutch performer, and his talent was undeniable. Off the court, Wallace developed a reputation for his fiery demeanor, a trait that would follow him throughout his career. His competitive edge often boiled over into confrontations with officials, and it wasn't uncommon for him to find himself in trouble with the refs. He set the NBA record for the most technical fouls in a single season, which only added to his tough guy persona. While this fiery attitude was part of what made Wallace such an intense player, it also led to frequent ejections. He ended his time with the Blazers as one of the most controversial figures in the league, with his involvement in the infamous Jail Blazers era. Despite these challenges, Wallace's talent was undeniable. He was named an NBA All-Star in both 2000 and 2001, further solidifying his place among the league's elite. However, the Blazers' inability to secure a championship weighed heavily on the franchise. Wallace's individual success was always overshadowed by the team's inability to reach the NBA Finals. And by the time the 2003-2004 season came around, the team decided it was time to move in a different direction. Wallace was traded to the Atlanta Hawks, where he would play just one game before another trade that sent him to the Detroit Pistons, where his career would truly take off. Wallace's time with the Atlanta Hawks was brief. After being traded to the Hawks during the 2004 season, he played only one game with the team, and in that game he scored 20 points and grabbed 6 boards. However, this was just a fleeting moment, as Wallace was quickly traded to the Detroit Pistons, where he would go on to experience the peak of his career. Despite his short stay in Atlanta, Wallace's time with the Hawks served as a brief transition before his eventual championship run with the Pistons. The Detroit Pistons became the team where Rasheed would achieve the most success in his career. After joining the Pistons in 2004, he helped lead the team to an NBA championship that season. His arrival in Detroit was a literal game changer for the Pistons. His versatility on both ends of the floor immediately made him a crucial asset. The Pistons were already a strong defensive team, but Wallace added another layer of toughness and skill. His size, athleticism, and basketball IQ helped the Pistons become one of the most complete teams in the league. In the 2004 NBA Finals, he played a crucial role in the Pistons' unexpected victory over the heavily favored Los Angeles Lakers. Rasheed's contributions in Game 4, where he recorded 26 points, 13 boards, and had 2 assists, were pivotal in helping the Pistons push the Lakers to the brink of elimination. Detroit would go on to gentlemen sweep the Lakers in 5 games, with Wallace's leadership being one of the defining factors in their success. His ability to score, rebound, and defend allowed the Pistons to counter the Lakers' superstar starting lineup and emerge as champions. After the victory, Wallace, known for his larger-than-life personality, of course, gave each of his teammates replica of the WWE World Heavyweight Championship belt as a gesture of appreciation. Wallace's presence on the court also influenced the team's culture. He brought a unique flair to the Pistons both on and off the floor. In the 2004-2005 season, Wallace and the Pistons returned to the NBA Finals, but this time they were unable to overcome the San Antonio Spurs, losing the series in 7 games. Wallace's strong performances throughout the playoffs was not enough to lift Detroit to another title, and the Pistons were left to reflect on what could have been. Still, Wallace continued to be an all-star, making the 2006 and 2008 All-Star teams and remained a key figure in Detroit's success. Despite their playoff appearances, the Pistons could not capture another NBA championship, and as the team began to change, Wallace's time with the Pistons came to a close after the 2008-2009 season. At this point, he had established himself as one of the league's top players, and his time in Detroit would always be remembered for his pivotal role in the team's championship success. After leaving the Pistons, Wallace signed a 3-year contract with the Boston Celtics in 2009, and it was clear that Wallace was nearing the end of his career. But the Celtics saw him as a key piece to their championship aspirations. However, Wallace's time in Boston was marked by struggles. He failed to live up to the high expectations set for him, and his performances dipped significantly. He averaged career lows in points and rebounds, and his shooting percentages dropped considerably. Despite his struggles during the regular season, Wallace was still a valuable asset to the team. The Celtics made it to the NBA Finals in 2010, where they faced off against the Los Angeles Lakers in a rematch of the 2008 Finals. And Wallace played a crucial role in the Celtics' playoff run, particularly when the team's starting center Kendrick Perkins was injured. Wallace stepped up and started Game 7 of the Finals, though the Celtics lost the series in 7 games. Wallace's contributions were still recognized. His veteran presence and leadership were invaluable during the postseason, even if his performances on the court wasn't as sharp as they once was. Following the loss to the Lakers in the 2010 Finals, Wallace announced that he would likely retire. This decision was confirmed later in the year after the Celtics bought out his contract. Wallace's retirement marked the end of an era for the big man, who has seen it all during his long and eventful career. In 2012, after a brief hiatus, Rasheed Wallace came out of retirement to sign with the New York Knicks for one final run in the NBA. His return was short-lived, and Wallace played just a handful of games for the Knicks before injuries took their toll. A broken left foot in February of 2013 sidelined him for the remainder of the season, and despite his return to the court for one final game in April, Wallace officially announced his second retirement shortly after. Although his stint with the Knicks was brief, it was a fitting conclusion to a career that has spanned 16 seasons. One of the standout facts about Rasheed is his record for the most career ejections in NBA history, a title he earned with 29 ejections over his long career. Wallace's emotional style of play often led to heated exchanges with referees. His fiery attitude was well known across the league. If something didn't go his way on the court, he wasn't afraid to voice his frustration, and sometimes this would lead to his expulsion from the game. It wasn't uncommon to see Wallace argue calls with an intensity that could literally shake an entire arena. The sheer number of technical fouls he received was staggering, with Wallace setting the record for the most technical fouls in the season with 41 during the 2000-2001 NBA season. While his outbursts were a source of frustration for referees and opposing players, they also underscored his passion for the game and his commitment to competing at the highest level. However, Wallace's emotional demeanor was not always about anger or frustration. He became famous for a phrase that summed up his on-court personality: "Ball don't lie." Wallace popularized this phrase during his career, using it whenever an opposing player missed a free throw after a controversial call. For Wallace, it was more than just a catchphrase. It was a way for him to communicate he was right on whatever he said on the court. It became a rallying cry for fans who shared his frustrations with certain officiating calls. And "ball don't lie" is something we all use today, whether we playing in organized basketball or playing at the park. Wallace's unwavering belief in the idea that the basketball gods would right the wrongs through missed free throws earned him both admiration and criticism. Regardless of how people felt about his antics, there was no denying that Wallace had found a way to turn his frustrations into a memorable trademark. Perhaps one of the most unforgettable on-court moments in Wallace's career occurred during the 2008 NBA playoffs. After a tough loss to the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, he went on an emotional tirade against the referees. Known for his fiery demeanor, Wallace unleashed an explosive rant that became one of the most talked about incidents of that postseason. His outburst was a reflection of how much he cared about winning and the intense pressures of the moment. It wasn't just a random act of frustration. It was the culmination of years of dealing with the ups and downs of an intense playoff series. In his mind, Wallace felt that the officiating had been unfair, and he voiced his displeasure in a way that no one would soon forget. The incident became part of the myth of Rasheed Wallace, a player whose passion often boiled over but who always left everything on the floor. Wallace's on-court personality and intensity were critical parts of his success, but they also contributed to his reputation as one of the most controversial and entertaining players in NBA history. He was a player who could turn a game on his head with his offensive skill set, but he could also shift the energy of a game with heated exchanges with the refs. Whether you loved him or you hated him, there was no denying that Wallace's fiery spirit made him one of the most unique and memorable players to ever step on an NBA court. Beyond his career, Rasheed Wallace's personal life has also been marked by his close family bonds and his commitment to his faith and community. Family has always been a central part of Wallace's life, and he has often spoken about the importance of maintaining a strong family foundation. Despite the demands of his professional basketball career, Wallace has always made it clear that his family comes first. This commitment to family is something that carried over into his work off the court as well, particularly in his philanthropic efforts and community involvement. In addition to his family, Wallace is a devoted follower of Islam, a faith that has shaped many aspects of his life. While his public persona often centered on his fiery attitude and competitive natures, those who know Wallace personally understand that his faith plays an important role in his character. His beliefs helped ground him during his highs and lows in his career, and he often spoke about how his spirituality influenced the way he approached life and basketball. Religion has always been a deeply personal part of Wallace's life, and he has used his platform to encourage others to find strength and guidance through their faith. Wallace's personal interests and hobbies also reflect his connection to his roots. Though he was raised in Philadelphia, Wallace is an avid fan of the Kansas City Chiefs, a surprising choice for many who would associate him with his hometown sports teams. His support for the Chiefs stand out, especially considering his background as a Philadelphia sports fan, where the Eagles, the city's NFL team, would be the natural choice. However, his love for the Chiefs has been a long-standing part of his personal identity. In addition to his passion for football, Wallace is also a loyal fan of the Philadelphia Flyers, the city's NHL team. His interest in the Flyers reflect his love for the sport of hockey and his deep ties to his hometown. Even though he made a name for himself in basketball, Wallace's appreciation in other sports highlights his well-rounded nature and his ability to connect with different aspects of sports culture. Wallace's nephew, Quadir Welton, has followed him in his footsteps and made a name for himself in the basketball world. Quadir has become a professional player in his own right, and Rasheed has been a mentor to him, offering guidance based on his own experiences in the league. Family and basketball go hand in hand for Wallace, and he takes great pride in watching his relatives succeed in the sport that brought him fame. Wallace's influence extends beyond the basketball court, particularly when it comes to his activism and philanthropic efforts. One of the most notable causes he has supported is the Flint water crisis. Wallace became one of the most vocal athletes in raising awareness about the water contamination crisis in Flint, Michigan. Seeing the devastation impact it had on the community, Wallace took action by personally delivering bottled water to residents in need. His efforts were not just about writing a check or making a public statement. Wallace literally got involved on the ground level, helping those who were most affected by the crisis. In addition to his efforts in Flint, Wallace used his platform to engage in other social issues. He has written articles for the Players Tribune, a publication that gives athletes a chance to share their voices directly with the public. Wallace has been outspoken about many of the struggles facing communities, particularly issues of racial inequality and injustice. Him being outspoken goes beyond the usual confines of sports. He has used his experiences to inspire change in both his fans and his fellow athletes. Wallace's humanitarian work hasn't stopped with the Flint water crisis. He has been a source of inspiration for other athletes and celebrities to get involved in charitable causes. Wallace's commitment to using his fame for good has inspired many others to follow in his footsteps. His philanthropic work has made a real difference in the lives of those he has helped, and it continues to serve as an example of how athletes can use their platforms to create positive change. After retiring from the NBA, Rasheed Wallace transitioned into coaching, a move that allowed him to stay connected to the game he loved while giving back to the next generation of players. In 2013, Wallace joined the Detroit Pistons staff as an assistant coach. His experience as both a player and a leader made him a valuable asset to the team. He worked with the Pistons for one season before being let go in the 2013-2014 season. His time with Detroit was brief, but it marked the beginning of his coaching career. In 2019, Wallace took on a new challenge by becoming the head coach for the boys varsity basketball team at Charles E. Jordan High School in Durham, North Carolina. This role allowed Wallace to work closely with young athletes, teaching them not only the fundamentals of basketball, but also the values of hard work, discipline, and leadership. His presence at Jordan High School was a reflection of his desire to give back to the community and inspire the next generation of players. In 2021, Wallace took on another coaching opportunity when he joined Penny Hardaway's staff at the University of Memphis as an assistant coach. His connection to Hardaway, who was also a former NBA player, helped Wallace transition into the college world. However, due to personal reasons, Wallace transitioned into a remote coaching role later that season. Despite the challenges of adapting to a new coaching environment, Wallace's experience and basketball IQ made him a respected figure on the Memphis coaching staff. As of the time of this recording, you can catch Sheed on various different podcasts giving his take on the NBA and other things. Rasheed Wallace's life and career has been marked by passion, commitment, and a drive to make a difference both on and off the court. Known for his fiery personality and his remarkable skill set, Wallace left a lasting legacy in the NBA. Whether it was through his on-court moments of brilliance or his important causes, Wallace proved that his impact went far beyond basketball. His transition into coaching and his continued efforts in philanthropy reflect his desire to continue shaping the future, both in the world of sports and in the community at large.